Dobry wieczór, bardzo dziękuję Wam za przybycie. Startujemy z kolejną edycją cyklu Mistrzowie Architektury. Miał być Zvi Hecker, który niestety ma problemy ze zdrowiem. Na szczęście w zamian przyjechał Paolo Fontana, jego najbliższy współpracownik, także bardzo się cieszymy, że wykład może dojść do skutku i będziemy mogli poznać realizację tego wyjątkowego biura. Dzisiejsze spotkanie Mistrzów Architektury rozpoczyna również ogólnopolskie spotkanie młodych studentów, młodych architektów SARP U40. Także szczególnie gorąco witamy przedstawicieli Stowarzyszenia Architektów Polskich, różnych oddziałów z całej Polski. Dziękujemy Wam za przybycie i cieszymy się, że również przyjechaliście do Katowic. I chciałbym od razu zaprosić Was wszystkich na wydarzenia powiązane z ogólnopolskim spotkaniem młodych architektów. Jutro przez cały dzień po jednym lub dwóch przedstawicieli każdego oddziału SARP z różnych miast Polski będzie dyskutowało o różnych problemach, wyzwaniach, z którymi młodzi architekci zmagają się na początku zawodowej ścieżki. I głównym punktem spotkania będzie dyskusja otwarta, która odbędzie się jutro o 18:00 w budynku Wydziału Radia i Telewizji Uniwersytetu Śląskiego. Będzie to oczywiście jedyna niepowtarzalna okazja, żeby zobaczyć ten budynek od środka, ale zapraszam również z powodu tematów, które będą poruszane, ponieważ będzie poruszona kwestia cenników, kwestii integracji architektów, czy działamy razem, czy osobno i wiele różnych takich kwestii, które są ważne dla młodego pokolenia architektów. Będą również tematy istotne dla studentów, także zapraszamy również studentów, ponieważ poruszymy tematy pracy studentów jeszcze w czasie studiów. Będą tematy włączania studentów w struktury SARP-u i zachęcanie ich do działalności, także serdecznie zapraszamy wszystkich, niezależnie od wieku i doświadczenia. Na samym początku chciałbym poprosić o zabranie głosu prezesa Stowarzyszenia Architektów Polskich oddziału Katowice, pana Mikołaja Machulika. Także panie prezesie, zapraszamy.
Dobry wieczór. Witam serdecznie przede wszystkim naszego gościa Paolo Fontana z biura Zvi Heckera, naszego dzisiejszego mistrza architektury. Brawo. Witam wszystkie koleżanki, wszystkich kolegów. W szczególności chciałem przywitać prezesa oddziału SARP w Krakowie, kolegę Bisia Lisowskiego, który przyjechał tutaj do nas właśnie w tej chwili, można powiedzieć prosto z Międzynarodowego Biennale Architektury w Krakowie, które organizował, a gdzie mieliśmy się okazję spotkać z nim przedwczoraj. Witam reprezentację również U40 SARP, o czym za chwilę, trochę już Wojtek o tym powiedział. Brawo, pokażcie się, jesteście wszyscy? Są, dobrze. Witam sponsorów, czyli kolegę Piotra Buźko, Archikat, który przedstawi krótką prezentację, o czym też za chwilę. Witam więc wszystkich na kolejnym spotkaniu Mistrzów Architektury SARP oddziału Katowice. Dzisiejszy wykład, a w zasadzie taki weekendowy tryptyk wydarzeń otwiera nasze Śląskie Dni Architektury. O, nie w tą stronę, przepraszam. O, tutaj mamy. Mamy? Coś to nie wchodzi. Okej. Nasze Śląskie Dni Architektury organizujemy co roku jesienią, zawierając w nich bogaty program imprez. Dziś Mistrzowie Architektury, Zvi Hecker i oczywiście wernisaż wystawy, którą mamy zaszczyt zaprezentować dzięki stałej transgranicznej współpracy z Kabinetem Architektury i z Tadeuszem Goryczką. Tadeuszowi dziękujemy bardzo. Brawa dla Tadeusza. Niestety nie mógł tutaj przyjść, bo czekają go kolejne obowiązki. Ja właśnie wróciłem prosto z montażu. Jeszcze Tadeusz tam wykańczał tą wystawę i przepraszam bardzo, że nie może być. Przekazuję pozdrowienia i szczególne pozdrowienia. Greetings from Tadeusz to Paolo. Dzisiaj też rozpoczyna się właśnie tym naszym wykładem spotkanie młodych architektów SARP U40, o czym w szczegółach opowiedział Wojtek. Jutro będą mieli zajęcia, warsztaty w grupach, które zakończą się w Ustroniu w sobotę w naszym Domu Pracy Twórczej w willi generała Ziętka, gdzie wszyscy architekci z rodzinami i z przyjaciółmi spotkają się po południu właśnie na imprezie też corocznie organizowanej na Archiziemniaku naszym. Serdecznie zapraszam wszystkich na Archiziemniaka. Ale Śląskie Dni Architektury nie na tym się kończą, bo to dopiero jest początek. Śląskie Dni Architektury to przede wszystkim, jak wiemy, nagrody za najlepsze realizacje, czyli architektura roku województwa śląskiego i najlepsza przestrzeń publiczna województwa śląskiego, organizowane wspólnie z marszałkiem województwa śląskiego, ze Śląską Okręgową Izbą Architektów oraz Towarzystwem Urbanistów Polskich. Oprócz tego jest cały cykl innych wystaw i wydarzeń. Będzie wystawa we współpracy z Narodowym Instytutem Architektury i Urbanistyki zaprezentowana w NOSPR pod tytułem Przemiana, tożsamość 100 lat polskiej architektury. W programie mamy też spotkanie z naszym mistrzem, Robertem Koniecznym, który razem z Ryszardem Nakoniecznym opowie nam, co wydarzyło się w Paryżu. Stąd bądźcie z nami na bieżąco, śledźcie nasze strony internetowe, te tradycyjne i facebookowe, gdyż wiele ciekawych spotkań się szykuje, a również kilka komercyjnych konferencji, które odbywają się w tym czasie, zabiega o nasze wsparcie. Dzięki temu możemy uzyskać darmowe wejściówki czy zniżkowe wejściówki, także bądźcie w kontakcie, bo rozmawiamy z kilkoma. Śledźcie nasze strony, będą konkursy. W tym roku też podczas Śląskich Dni Architektury czeka nas spotkanie podsumowujące upływającą naszą kadencję zarządu, czyli wybory do tak naprawdę nowych władz i wspólne określenie dalszych perspektyw, na co gorąco zapraszam wszystkich członków naszego oddziału, a w zasadzie przypominam im o tej obecności na zebraniu. Tyle z ogłoszeń parafialnych, jak to zwykł mawiać kolega Biślisowski. I wracamy do naszego mistrza architektury, do Zvi Heckera, bo to jest bardzo ciekawa biografia. To jest historia, którą odkrywaliśmy, odkrywamy i będziemy jeszcze odkrywać, a także będziemy się z nią mierzyć cały czas, bo przecież urodził się Zvi Hecker w Polsce w przedwojennym Krakowie. Ja pamiętam dwa momenty związane z Zvi Heckerem w moim dotychczasowym życiu. Kiedy zaczynałem studia w 1992 roku w architekturze w Polsce, można powiedzieć, że panowała medialna pustka. Nie było internetu, tak jak dzisiaj, żeby sobie przegrzebać informacje, pooglądać projektów. Nie było czasopism architektonicznych. Wyobrażacie to sobie, nie było ani jednego czasopisma. Stara architektura, która dzisiaj jest architekturą Murator, upadła. Była tylko biblioteka na Wydziale Architektury, która prenumerowała kilka zagranicznych czasopism. I na tym łysym tle, w tej całej pustce, pojawił się wówczas inicjatywy kolegi Romualda Leglera, architekta z Krakowa, doskonale znanego wszystkim, magazyn Architektura i Biznes. To był właśnie 1992 rok. I w jednym z pierwszych początkowych numerów, nie pamiętam teraz dokładnie którym, ale na samym początku, bo zaczynaliśmy studia równo, można powiedzieć, z tą architekturą i biznes, ukazał się projekt, wtedy nam, niestety trzeba to powiedzieć, nieznanego architekta Zvi Heckera. Był to projekt Heinz-Galinski Schule, czyli szkoły w Berlinie, w Charlottenburgu, słynny słonecznik. Muszę wam powiedzieć, że wtedy to było coś. To była burza, to wzbudziło duże emocje i dało duży napęd do projektów. W połowie studiów mieliśmy okazję udać się do Berlina z kilkudniowym wyjazdem, wtedy kiedy Berlin był przebudowywany. Nie było wówczas również łatwe te wyjazdy, tak jak dzisiaj. I musieliśmy tą szkołę zobaczyć. No i powiem wam, że się tego nie da odzobaczyć. Drugi raz, choć nie miałem okazji się bezpośrednio spotkać z mistrzem Zvi Heckerem, bo nie byłem jeszcze wówczas członkiem SARP-u, ale coraz bliżej. Był początek lat 2000. Zvi Hecker został zaproszony przez nasz oddział do udziału w międzynarodowych warsztatach architektonicznych na granicy w Cieszynie, właśnie na początku lat 2000. Spotykamy się więc tutaj na Śląsku, w Katowicach, nie po raz pierwszy, a w zasadzie spotkalibyśmy się, gdyby nie problemy zdrowotne mistrza, o czym Wojtek wspominał, ale myślę, że nie mniej godnie zastąpi go Paolo Fontana. So please welcome Paolo. Brawo, jeszcze raz.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to introduce our today's guest lecturer. When Zvi Hecker has been asked what does mean sketching for him, he said that sketch is a proof that an architect is thinking, because if he knew everything, the sketch wouldn't be necessary. But thanks to sketches, he can find new solutions, new answers, and many, many more. So I would like to invite you to an amazing story about an amazing office, an amazing guy, and who has a really specific way of thinking and the design process. So please welcome one of the closest partners of Zvi Hecker. He comes from Italy, so please welcome Paolo Fontana.
Good evening, and thank you first of all for inviting Zvi Hecker and then allowing me to take part of this event. And also thank you to SARPA to host the exhibition of Zvi Hecker works in his space. And connected to this, also I would like to thank Tadeusz Gorycka, because he is the curator who initiated this exhibition and so allowed us to show and to display this material. As you heard, I am Paolo Fontana, and I'm collaborating with Zvi Hecker in his office since 2005, in his office in Berlin. I would like to give you maybe a short introduction or biography notes about him, if you don't know. Zvi Hecker was born in 1931 in Poland, Krakow, where then he had to flee because there was the World War II starting, and he started to travel around Europe, Asia, because he visited Siberia and then Samarkand. Especially this city was particularly important for him. It was a kind of formation city for him because he started to draw there, hand drawing there, and that's why I'm showing this drawing here. But we will come back to this one. Then he moved back to Krakow, started his studies, but then the family decided to move to Israel in the 50s. And when in Israel, he attended the Technion, architectural study at the Technion, followed and mentored by his professor Eran Neumann. He set up then a practice with his professor and a contemporary student, Eldar Sharon. This period was particularly fruitful for him and for Alfred Neumann, and led him to the production of several projects all realized in Israel. For instance, this is the city center of Bat Yam that was realized between 60 and 63. And it was the first project that they realized, I mean, Zvi Hecker realized together with his master, Alfred Neumann. There was a competition, and then they got the commission for the realization of this project. Another example is the Dubiner House, which is in Tel Aviv, in a suburb of Tel Aviv, Ramat Gan, Israel. We will hear again about this project because we will speak about the spiral house, still realized by Zvi Hecker, designer realized by Zvi Hecker, this time alone, and in the 80s. As you can see, there is already like a discourse in this project. It is quite evident. This is the use of the structure, of the crystalline structure, so hexagonal shape or dodecahedron shape applied to architecture, which were quite common in this year. This is another example, Club Méditerranée in Hatziv in Tel Aviv. They realized like three of these of the structure for the Club Méditerranée. And then another quite popular building is the as the Danziger building at the Technion. This is the laboratory, the building for the laboratories of the mechanical engineer of the Technion. Technion is a technical university known in Haifa. And again, here we see the use of this triangular shape structure repeated a number of times. Is almost a fractal structure. And then again, this application of this hexagonal shape applied to a small building for a synagogue in the Negev desert in Israel in the middle of the 60s. Again, this one with Alfred Neumann. We will come back also to this one because then Zvi Hecker realized the military academy, sort of caserne compound where the officers are trained, and it's close by to this synagogue. But I would like to go back to this picture. Because that's the beginning of Zvi Hecker career as a drawer more than an architect. He spent, as I said, some time in Samarkand, and there he started to get to know about architecture, buildings. He started to draw them. Though this one is a picture that, a painting, drawing that he realized in the 80s, so after that, like with a memory of that time. And I would like to introduce the importance of a hand drawing for him, reading some of his words. The significance and the uniqueness of hand drawings lies not in the clarity of their message, but in their inherent imperfection. They communicate not no one but their creator. Not once I was surprised at how hand drawings can evoke possibilities that most probably I would not have been able to imagine consciously. Hand drawings help to channel the vague pondering of the mind into visual images of a germinating concept. It is then up to the eyes to trace and decode its meaning. The architect's way of thinking is through his eyes. So keep in mind these words. We can start this journey through his most recent production, architectural production. And I say in advance that I will not follow a strict chronological order. I will try to connect the project more based on the metaphor, the ideas, or the forms that are hidden inside these projects. I start, in fact, with one of the most recent one that we finished, the realization of which we finished in 2017-18. That's the Königin Maxima Kaserne at the airport of Schiphol in Amsterdam. This is an image of the site before the intervention, and if you see, it's a sort of green desert, we like to say, because there are not many points of reference in it. Few houses, agricultural fields, a quite flat skyline. So it's the typical Dutch countryside. Nearby, however, there are large and disturbing infrastructure, like several highway junctions, and that's the most important, Schiphol with its runway and further infrastructures. We designed the complex, Zvi Hecker designed the complex starting in 2001. There was a long process of design, and the work, the building work started then at the beginning of 2010. It's due to the military police of the Royal Dutch Military Police, which is this branch of the police which is taking care of the security of the borders, so has custom service at the Schiphol airport. And they wanted to bring together sort of 1,500 staff personnel. They had to be located in here, and the project was quite complex. The program was quite complex because there were we had to organize and locate on the site dormitories that you can see are placed in the violet part of the building. Sorry, offices. The dormitories in the blue one, because officers had to stay there, and sometimes also there were people from outside coming there in order to be trained. In fact, there was the training facility, or the school is the green part on the top left corner. In there we have also almost hidden inside the dike that we built along the highway in order to protect the highway from the noise. There are also sports facilities, so a sport hall and a small gym over there. But then we had also to provide some recreational spaces like the cafeteria and the restaurant, which is the yellow part, and of course provide some other additional spaces for sports and free time. So the complex, the program was quite complex one, and Zvi Hecker decided that the key word to fulfill this program was to build a sort of a city, a small city. In fact, it started to use all the elements which are typical in a city. We can see here how the building, although sharing some common features, are each one different from the other. You can say that, for instance, this is the office building, which has also the entrance to the complex. This here is the main entrance where all the control are also done. And we see how the building are always divided in two parts. So there are two floors which are built with a concrete and have a more orthogonal shape, as you see in the lower corner over there. And then on top of it there is this serpent that is floating, containing two other floors, which is built with light construction and with this aluminium facade system, glass and aluminium facade. As you see here, the dormitories, although sharing this common feature logic, they have a different color of the facade, and also the shape of the facade is different. Because in this way we could provide with more intimacy to the rooms, since all the rooms have their own window, but it's impossible almost to see from one window into the neighbor window. This is another view of these dormitories. It's very evident the division into blocks. Concrete is a quite common material for Zvi Hecker, and it's used repeatedly. This is the detail of the dormitories. This is just to give some disturb and okay, but make maybe some thinking, since it's still connected with this process of design. Zvi Hecker is always painting, so it's a kind of activity that goes together and parallelly. This is a view of the catering and cafe building. And we can see that, especially here, oops, it doesn't go back. Okay, no problem. In this kind of a city, we have also courtyard or a square where people can find a rest, have some intimacy. So it's a quite large complex, but still there are some places that are more down to human scale. Like for instance, this one right in front of the cafeteria. So it's also a recreational space. And this is again a view from the sport facilities looking at this entrance. again, giving back this sort of quite urban skyline generated by the different geometries of the building. Here are some sketches that we put together. All these sketches were realized by Zvi Hecker during the design of the complex. It's quite significant to show this picture because you can understand how, through has been already mentioned before, how Zvi Hecker really thinks by drawing, and through all these sketches is trying to find out what the project is supposed to be, what the project is trying to communicate to the architect. And of course, with this, one reinforces also its own ideas and try to verify them. He liked to say also that the project resembles a medieval city. And quoting him, its maximally elongated walls, enclosed piazzas, cul-de-sac, courtyards, provide a sense of security. And that's why he chose this image of, let's say, this is the image of the complex, but the metaphorical image of a walled city, in order to transfer this sense of security and protection to the future user of this place. But in this case, the city, there is, let's say, an interpretation of the city and of the medieval city, of the walled city, because in the Königin Maxima Kaserne, the wall is the city itself, since the living spaces, so the buildings, are the one forming the walls, as you can see. So they are really surrounding the spaces, which then are used by the people to live. Still, about this concept that a medieval city and medieval time, Zvi Hecker liked to say, and I'm quoting him, "I feel more related to the Middle Ages than to the Renaissance. After all, I was born in the medieval Krakow, raised in the medieval Samarkand, and started my career building a kind of medieval caravanserai in the Negev desert." So the caravanserai were this structure where people could find a sort of rest while moving and pilgriming through the desert. And with this caravanserai built in the Negev desert is referring to this next project, the military academy in the Negev desert. That's the one that I mentioned before, talking about the synagogue in the Negev desert, which you can see maybe in the corner left there at the end of this straight building is there. So it was built more or less at the same time, although the priority was to build the military academy. This is again a military complex, but it was realized almost 50 years before, so in the 60s. And the building rises from the desert following the generic prototype of the enclosed oasis. You can notice how the buildings actually, because there are several buildings, are organized all around a courtyard, which is the core of it. And the courtyard is the central space where it's then used for parades or exercises for the troops. The buildings are embracing a portion of the desert and transform it into a place and a safe environment where people find shelter from the harsh surrounding. So that's yes, the plan of it. In the original plan, there should have been more building, but at the end, this is only the part that was realized. So the Königin Maxima Kaserne offered protection from noise and a reference point within an otherwise desolated environment that was the Dutch countryside. In the same way, the military academy in the Negev provides with a civilized place within the sand desert. So courtyard is another key word for Zvi Hecker, and it's a fundament for many of his drawing. And it's especially visible again in Palmach Museum of History, a realization of the 90s. This project was realized together with an architect that had already a lecture here. It was Rafi Segal. He was one of his students and collaborated a lot with Zvi Hecker. As a matter of fact, the core of the museum is not the object built itself. It's rather the space that the building surrounds. And in the center, we can give shape to this courtyard. This solves also another quite crucial problem that Zvi Hecker had in this case, that was preserving the existing trees. So there were trees on this hillside where the project is located. And he wanted to maintain the trees exactly where they were, and they are still standing because they survived this construction. So he decided to build around them, and in fact these were the work that were needed in order to preserve the trees, because we needed to preserve the roots of the trees. So they put these concrete piles in order to support and maintain this the earth. So they created a sort of big pot for these trees. The Palmach Museum of History is, rather than a building, is essentially a landscape comprising a series of terraces and walls ascending and mirroring the stepped nature of the terrain. The terraces reach towards the elevated region of the side and overlook the Mediterranean Sea. Here is a model put, let's say, at the beginning in a sort of contest. And then again another drawing of him where also the color is used to underline this fractal or fragmented structure, which are then embedded, as you can see, in this very smooth hilltop and then descending. So there are different heights of these elements. To notice here is also the use of the Jerusalem stone to create this wall. Then again the concrete that is again very typical for Zvi Hecker, and you see how this concrete is very rough. So is a concrete that has been realized by workers that had no much experience in using the concrete, but he was happy that it didn't came out so clean and perfect. And behind we see this light brown material, which is called korkar, is a limestone, so it's produced by layering of sand, and this was found on the site and then reused for the cladding on some part of this project. So it underlines also, of course, with the use of the material, so the korkar or the concrete or the plaster, which is gray or white, the volumes of this building. This is the entrance slope. We have a small auditorium outside in here. And this is the view of this courtyard, which is the core of the project. It's a sort of inside-outside space. We are in Tel Aviv, so there is a different climate than in Europe here. So it's really a space that is lived also like a sort of room before entering the museum. The climate allows this, but although being outside is already considered like an interior, an indoor space. That's a corner of the auditorium, which is inside here. And then I just wanted to put here a picture of an installation that he realized in 2014, so it's quite recent. And this is called Ruin of Good Intention. It's again another provocation just to think about it, but you may recognize just maybe formally some connection maybe with Palmach Museum. I don't know, you think about it. So the architecture of Zvi Hecker is never an object that you walk around or you admire from a certain distance. It's usually a building that you are surrounded by. And the users are invited to walk through and experience the space that this object provides, that generates. And by doing this, Zvi Hecker creates a landscape where the person, the visitor, is moving. And this is quite evident in the three following competition that I will present you. There are three competitions that unfortunately haven't been realized, but this idea of creating a landscape is quite evident in here. For instance, we have this, which is the project for Halle du Marché Permanent in Bethune, a French city, where the program asked to create the new hall, market hall, around the clock tower, which is the one in the center there, which is existing and they wanted to maintain. It's called Beffroi, which is a quite typical structure in this region of France. And they asked to create this covered market. So Zvi Hecker realized and had the idea to create a sort of amphitheater, where the amphitheater was the roof of the market, but again, by being amphitheater and by extending with some stairs into the square, one could really use this and use this architecture completely and create a new landscape inside the city square. In fact, these terraces or amphitheater can be used just to sit or to have some concert or just to hang out a bit during your day. Then also the same approach is for the new pedestrian area around the Brandenburg Gate, well, behind the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. It's a project that he proposed in 2010. In this case, Zvi Hecker was complaining by the fact that there is this place, which is the Brandenburg Gate, maybe you know what I'm talking about, but anyhow, it's at the end of this 18th century monumental street, which is Unter den Linden. Then it ends in this square-shaped piazza, and then we have the Brandenburg Gate, but after the Brandenburg Gate, there is almost nothing. So there is a space that before was occupied by the wall until 90s, but then this wall disappeared, and it's still a space that looks like a no place to him. It's a sort of traffic junction, mainly. So Zvi Hecker wanted to give a sort of identity to that place. And so he thought to shape it, give to the place this oval shape, creating also a roof. This roof really underlined this oval shape, where eventually some infrastructure that could be used for event could be located. In Berlin, this place is closed every second day because there is a demonstration or a concert or whatever, a festival, they are doing it here. So why not provide a structured place where people can find also some infrastructure for it? And then together, the square of Pariser Platz and the new square, the oval, bound together with the Brandenburg Gate, they create together an architectural composition, so they can identify the space. And you see how many drawings, also investigating some other possibility there are. For instance, here we are trying to see if maybe the traffic could be integrated in the structure and in the shape that he had in mind. And then again, this is the last of these three competitions, the aquarium and aviary for Batumi. Batumi is a city on the Black Sea, is a Georgian city of the Black Sea. And we were asked to design a space, a building for accommodating fishes, so aquarium, and birds, so an aviary. And the design is the expression of these two primordial worlds coming together, so air and water. But still, you can recognize in here again some shape that you already seen in the Museum of Palmach. Again, they come back. And Zvi Hecker tries to stress again this shape or this concept of this triangular shape that are interconnected to see if these shapes can again provide, if this concept can again provide the solution for an architectural problem. And in this case, we had a triangle which is used for the air element, so it's lighter. We have tensile structure where the bird can fly freely, so we create this big cage. The other one, representing water, is a solid triangle where the tank of the fishes are placed. And then this, it's also stepped, is a stepped building, so we are creating also a sort of a small landscape within the building that you assess really from this central part. And yes, so the dual world is represented by this dual shapes of it. The idea was also to hang a catwalk that could allow the visitors to really climb to the highest part of this cage, so like being at the same level, let's say, of the birds. Start again, and now we'll show you some of the projects that I mean, we change, and we start to talk about another metaphor that is binding together this series of projects that I'm going to show you now. Of course, it's not the only metaphor or form which is behind it and guided the production, the realization of this project, the design of these projects. We start with the Heinz-Galinski school in Berlin. This is the first Jewish school built in Berlin after the World War II. And had a great significance for the Jewish community in Berlin because it meant a lot for their identity. This is a result of an international competition that was held in 1991. It was two stages competition, and Zvi Hecker was invited in the first and then accepted for the second one. And Zvi Hecker was still in Israel when he produced the work, the drawing, sorry, for the Jewish school. He actually moved to Berlin in order to follow the realization of the school, which was then finished in 1995. The school is designed for around 400 students. It's maybe here we see this better, that it's in a quite residential area of Berlin. It's really surrounded by trees and green. And the trees are again another special topic because Zvi wanted to maintain most of the trees that were on the site. So that's also why the shape of the building is following this scheme. So the school, as I said, is for around 400 students. We have also an aula or auditorium, which is this triangular shaped element room on the top right corner. You enter from the top left corner over there, so you go down and then you enter in this almost circular courtyard where somewhere hidden among these points you have the entrance of the school. It's a bit hidden. There is also a mensa, so a restaurant for the kids, which is kosher. So has the kitchen divided in two in order to keep the food divided according to the kosher tradition. And in this lower corner, you see also the sport hall of the building. I would like to notice maybe already now that maybe you can notice how the vertical connection is all placed in the vertex of these building parts, while then the communication between these parts is realized with a corridor which has a serpent-shaped corridor. With Zvi Hecker, we saw already how projects are strongly related to metaphor. And certainly the Jewish school is one of those that better exemplify the metaphor, the use of the metaphor and how they alimented his design process. So I will quote his word and show you some drawing realized during the design of it. In the early stages of the design, metaphors are well hidden, but they might appear in the longer process of design. Metaphors allow me to come closer to the core meaning of architectural idea. This was the case in the planning of a Heinz-Galinski school in Berlin. From the start, the metaphor of the sunflower embodied the idea of a transmission and absorption of knowledge, which is, after all, what education is all about. But in time, the metaphor of the pages of an open book took over to more clearly personify the form of the school. We can notice that the word book and school in Hebrew are expressed by the same word also. And this is a model that was produced in order to clarify the ideas about the structural system of the school, which is basically load-bearing, so it's quite simple one. Also this helped to find out this metaphor of the pages of the open book. This is the entrance courtyard, so the entrance to the school is well hidden behind one of these pages. And again here I would like to notice the use of the material. So again we have a gray plaster, a white plaster, then some steel corrugated sheets used for elements like some shading and so on. And then here we don't see, but there is again the use of concrete. These are used again to underline the volumes that build the school. So it's a very plastic sculptural attitude toward the use of the materials. And here again we see a shape that we met already for the Palmach Museum, and then in the Bethune project, so the aquarium in Ivory in Bethune. So this triangular shape that this time is hosting the stairs connecting the different levels of the school. Is a shape that recurs from time to time, and here is expressed and called like a mountain, that it's part of this building. And this similitude to the drawing that he was making. It's again the backyard of the school with another one of this triangular shape staircase. The school, anyhow, when it was built, to the school, after it was built and after you started to look at it, especially from the top of the school, you started to notice that the school resembles a small city. So it's like a city within the city of Berlin. And this is another metaphor that rises, yes, at the end of the project, but still can manifest and underline the fact or the potentiality of the idea and of the project, because it's still adding some elements for a further speculation, intellectual thinking. And this is one of these serpent-shaped corridor connecting horizontally the level of the school, which is a similitude of. And it's covered with this corrugated metal. And of course kids like a lot these spaces because they can hide and they can find, so more intimate space where they can simply stay. Teachers a bit less, because then they get, they lose the control of them. And so we can see how, again, we have this small courtyard created in between the school, and this very heterogenic view that recalls the images of a city. Actually, if you have ever been to Berlin, this is also a sort of view that you will see when traveling with the S-Bahn, because the S-Bahn is the train, one of the urban train going through Berlin, and you have really this. You see these images when the train really cut the building, so you have a view that is more similar to this one. So the sunlight is allowed through the pages of this open book. In other words, through the walls of the school that follow either the curved or the straight lines defined by the precise geometry of the spiral, which is the structural, geometrical structure which was used in order to guide the design of the school. It's the one that Zvi Hecker started to use in order to place the first wall or the first volume of it. Zvi Hecker interest in this shape has to be traced back to the 80s, when he became aware of this geometry and of the mathematical order behind it, when he received as a gift a sunflower. The sunflower has seeds that are placed on his receptacle according to a spiral shape, which is then can be described with the Fibonacci sequel, and it's very close to the golden ratio. So for him, it was very interesting to use this geometry and to understand if these mathematical rules which are behind the spiral geometry could maybe lead into some results in architecture or simply in the proportion of the architecture. And I jump back to the 80s, so this is the first image that he used for. I would like to jump back to the 80s, exactly to one of the first studies where he applied the spiral geometry to architecture, which is the design for the Ramat Sharon city center. Ramat Sharon is a rural, but was in the 80s a rural but growing place, town, not far away from Tel Aviv. And the community wanted to have some structure that could offer to the people living there some services, but also a structure that could give identity to the place. So that's why Zvi Hecker was asked to design this city center. The design received, first of all, influences from actually the Italian defensive or military architecture of the 17th century, because this is an image of Ferrara, that's a city in the center of Italy. You can see the fortress that was realized in the 17th century in order to defend the city from the attacks from the north, actually. So it was inspired by this shape, by this drawing, and it started to apply it to the place. But suddenly, there was something that happened because a new idea suddenly was introduced, and the spiral was chose as maybe a shape of it, and the process of design started again. So put in Zvi Hecker, an architectural idea is like a newborn baby. It needs your care for a long time, and at least until your monologue turns into a dialogue. His drawing, its line and colors are meant to seduce the child to speak then its mind. And the spiral is a shape that lies in many other projects, behind many other projects, and sometimes is not even seen at the beginning, because then many other metaphors or images came through and led the project and the process toward other results. This is, for instance, what happened to the Jewish Cultural Center in Duisburg, a project realized in the late 90s. Duisburg is a city in Germany, which is actually quite similar to Katowice, because it is in this mine area of the Ruhr. And in there was a quite large Jewish community that was, of course, dispersed during the war. And now again, they try to build again this community and their identity. And this was particularly important. So the project asked for a new center for meeting, first of all, because there is also a synagogue on this almost triangular shaped space on the right. But there is also a big auditorium or aula that could be used for, this is the number 2, that could be used for a meeting or lectures or any other kind of events that the community would like to organize. And there are also a couple of apartments for visiting guests. And so the spiral lies behind the project, and let's say now, yes, maybe I will speak more about this syllabus about the architecture. So it was the the competition was an open international competition. There were several offices working on it, and at the end, this was, of course, chosen and built. And you see how part of the building is facing a park. So these 5 elements are extending into the park, and we call it fingers because they look like the finger of an open hand, the open finger of an hand. So you see already that there is overlapping between the spiral, which is then a geometry. I will explain you why the spiral is used, is behind it. But there is already another metaphor, which is the one of the open end, which is visible in here, or actually better in this picture from the park. This is the entrance. We have the so-called Jerusalem stone used to pave the entrance of it. And again, as you see, the materials are concrete, very simple concrete, plaster, and plaster with different color just to underline the volumes, and that's it. That's the main aula, so the big space for the community, and the synagogue here. So exactly, this is the image of the spiral that, or the beginning of this spiral study that Zvi Hecker used. But then suddenly, as I said, there were other images and metaphor that came. So it could be that maybe you recognize a star in these sketches, or even in the realized project, or maybe the palm of an open hand, or maybe again the pages of an open book. It's up to us. And you see how then the spaces is really going through the building, and people actually can walk through these kind of doors that are opening toward the park. And then when we come here to the most exemplar building of Zvi's production. It's the spiral house realized in Israel, in Ramat Gan, in the 80s. In here, again, the spiral is the basis of the project, but in this time it tried also to see if this shape could have some potentiality in the third dimension. In fact, so the spiral house is the building on the right, and on the left you see the Dubiner house. So it's seen now from one side. The Dubiner house is the one that I show you at the really beginning, so the one that he realized in the 60s together with Alfred Neumann. They are now together, and let's say that in the spiral, the apartments are organized around a central courtyard. And so you see again the shape, the structural image of it. But the apartment are shifted one over the other, and the upper terraces were created on one end of the spiral. So it's like a stairs going up. And on the other hand, you see that a shadow area is created behind and below these terraces. It's where then the staircase take their space. So the stairs to climb at a different height of the spiral house. Zvi Hecker, so yeah, you recognize how the spiral is not only the shape that was used for the building itself, but also this smaller element like the stairs are again in the shape of the spiral. Again, the use of the material, so we have this Jerusalem stone that is covering part of the building, then we have the concrete or the plaster. We start to see the use of the corrugated metal sheets that are used again as element to underline the dynamic of the building. And Zvi Hecker worked on it really personally. That's a sketch. So he really worked on it, choosing the stone that had to go on the wall, or choosing the mirror, so the broken mirror that had to go below the terraces, completing this area or creating the shape of the serpent, which then we find back again in the Jewish school. And here is painting how then this broken glass, broken mirror should be placed on the shutter for the concrete. It placed also a number of other material on it. There are also palm leaves inside the concrete. I think that here we cannot see them, but there are. And then he likes to make this analogy with local vernacular architecture, so between the spiral house and this water tower. So it's like an unfinished work, the spiral house. He says, he likes to say it's a work of unfinished perfection. So the perfection is so much reached in the process, and in the design, because the process, the design or the project is not finished at all. And I will conclude now with a series of images related to this building. Many drawings have been realized by Zvi Hecker before starting the design of the spiral house, then during the design of the spiral house, and even years later. So I think he's still painting or doing sketches where the spiral as a shape is used. You will see also some images of installation that he realized, because and they are related again to the spiral. Is still investigating this shape and see the potentiality of it. He continues his research and applies this geometry in different contexts and resizes it in different scale, and builds it also using different and a variety of materials and color, always in order to find out, to get more inspiration, let's say, also from this shape, and to prove, to test it. So again, these images or sketches that are very related then to the realization. These are the terraces of the spiral. And I would like now to also to accompanying this series of drawing, again using his word in order to reach a sort of synthesis with what I start and what we've seen during the presentation. So we cited a lot of metaphors through this. We've seen a lot of metaphors through the project. And at the beginning, I spoke about hand drawings. We've seen a lot also of hand drawings or paintings. So I will try to use Zvi Hecker words in order to create a synthesis between these two elements that are so strong in his production. In every new project, one is in search of its basic idea, which do not bring to the project, but hope to discover within it. We embrace the idea only when it is ready to inform us about its nature. We do not know where the idea is hiding. Its location does not appear on any map, and therefore cannot be reached by any public transportation. It is a disadvantage because in order to reach such an unknown destination, we have to build our own means of transportation. For me, architectural sketches are such a vehicle, and the metaphor is the vehicle's fuel. Okay, so thank you. That's the end.
So the first, Marta Sanigórska. Zapraszamy.
I gratulujemy, duże brawa.
And I read a question. Which building from modern architecture is your biggest inspiration?
So I'm talking in the name of Zvi, but it's more like a joke than. So Zvi Hecker says that there is a building in Krakow which is not actually a modern building. It's before, I would say, is the building of Szyszko Bohus.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's right opposite the bank that is built in Krakow. It's a housing project, and Zvi is really fun for it because it creates a very special interior space in the courtyard. So I think that is really a good example of urbanism architecture. So since it's here in Krakow, then you need to go and see the building. So.
Okay, and Paolo, could we ask you for a signature on the cover?
Sorry, that is not big.
Gratulujemy. Następną osobą jest Adrian, użytkownik, momencik, rea.on. Czy jest na
Zapraszamy
sali?
autora pytania na scenę. And what's the question?
The question is, architecture for people or people for architecture?
But there were also other that were about form or function in architecture, and especially with this kind of architecture, it's very obvious that a question like this comes out. And this is nicely formulated. Zvi Hecker always said that he builds for people, and he always tried to have a human being present when he's doing it. He also said that architecture is a human art, but is never humane enough for it. And he added that, of course, the architect it tries to fulfill the desire of the people, a program, but of course it does in its own way. So through his research, his idea, his personality. So we said also tonight how yes, the personality of the architect goes through the design of it. So for sure is architecture for people, first of all. And this is the book.
Okay, and the signature.
Dziękujemy. Gratulacje.
Teraz chwila napięcia, ponieważ została ostatnia książka do wygrania.
Ostatni uczestnik na pewno szanuje RODO, ponieważ nie ma ani imienia, ani nazwiska. Jest to użytkownik Kabetleja.
Także zapraszamy na scenę użytkownika o pseudonimie Kabet Leja.
Okay, so this question is a little longer. We already know what Zvi Hecker think about sketches, but what sketches mean to you? Has his way of designing by drawings, paintings changed your thinking about creating?
I see that we have two winners.
It was really inspired when I started to work with Zvi Hecker because I really understood the importance of the sketching. Of course, when you are a student, you do a lot of sketching. Sometimes you are also pushed to do it, and you never understand why. And then again, you sketch something and you jump into drawing it. For instance, now by computer. I'm not a big drawer, but staying with him, I really saw how this is important in order to clarify the idea that you get. It's also the way this idea become more real, more something. And that's why it became more and more important. I tried to push myself to sketch more. And also, the way is using, let's say, drawing for the project is important. So it's not only sketching by hand, but also, as we've seen, this painting. Okay, the installation, not all of us can do installation, but all this is really something that aliments your way of thinking. And the color that you put in the sketches. There was this curator, Andres Lepik, that said how also the color that and the lines that Zvi uses there are not really important because they are transmitting something of the project, like a technical information, but it's really like a transmission of your knowledge, so of your idea. That's why I believe it's really important for this. Okay, so I don't know who's getting it.
I która z was jest autorką pytania? Która z was jest autorką pytania? Mamy informacje z ostatniej chwili.
Jeśli macie czas, zapraszamy oczywiście na wystawę do SARP-u. Tam będą czekały na was gadżety, tak żebyście mogły się podzielić prezentami.
Tak, dodatkowa nagroda, gadżety w postaci torby, szkicownika, kubka i jeszcze kilka innych rzeczy z grafiką z dzisiejszego wykładu z Mistrzów Architektury. Także wystawa pół godziny po zakończeniu dzisiejszego wykładu w Galerii Architektury SARP. Także gratulacje.
Gratulacje.
Okay, so I asked, yes, Yaja. Yeah, it's quite it's strange. Yeah. Yeah, it could be. Yes, that's right. Quite right.
Sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
Duże brawa dla autorów pytania. Okay, if you want, there is a chance to ask some more questions. Thank you, Justyna. Do you have any other questions? Okay, I have one question which we ask every Master of Architecture that comes here, because today you had a chance to see Katowice for the first time. And could you tell us about your impressions about our city?
Okay, I repeat a bit myself because I already told you I was expecting a city that, since it's like an industrial mine city, so I thought to find a city that was more closed and more, allow me to say, oppressive. But I found a city that is quite has a lot of space and also a lot of green space. Yeah, a lot of potentiality also to develop it. It's interesting the story that he has, and that what makes the city. I don't know. You are the architect. You should maybe work more with this history then, and trying to get some inspiration out of it. Without losing it, because it's very important and special, makes this area, because it's not even a city, original and unique.
Okay, thank you for this opinion. Of course, oczywiście jeżeli macie ochotę, to kolejna okazja do zadania pytania, do luźnej rozmowy z mistrzem będzie za pół godziny w Galerii Architektury SARP w ramach otwarcia wystawy. Naprawdę zapraszam, bo makiety są niesamowite, duże i warto zobaczenia, podobnie jak oryginalne szkice. So Paolo, once again, big thank you for making time to come to
Thank you
Katowice.
for coming. Thank you.
A wszystkich zapraszamy również jutro o 18:00 na Wydział Radia i Telewizji na dyskusję otwartą podsumowującą warsztaty SARP-u 40, ogólnopolskie spotkanie młodych architektów. So once again, Paolo, big thank you and see you in half an hour at the SARP Gallery.
Okay. Thank you a lot for coming. Thank you.